Imagine waking up in a country where the streets are littered with the echoes of gunfire, where schools are empty shells, hospitals are broken, and fear is the only language people speak. Now imagine being told, you must rebuild this place from nothing. That's exactly what Ellen Johnson Sirleaf faced when she became the first female president of Liberia in 2006. And this isn't just a history lesson, it's a story about resilience, betrayal, courage, and the fight to turn ashes into hope. Liberia had been through hell. To brutal civil wars, child soldiers with AK-47s, entire villages burned to the ground, families torn apart. By the time the war ended in 2003, the country was in ruins. Roads destroyed, electricity gone, banks collapsed, and the government was basically a ghost. Nobody trusted anyone. But in 2005, something unthinkable happened. A woman in a continent where power was almost always male, stepped into the chaos and said, "I will lead." Her name was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Some called her the Iron Lady of Africa. Others laughed at the idea that a grandmother, a former World Bank economist, could fix a shattered nation. But Liberia's people were desperate. They rolled the dice on her, not out of blind faith, but because they had no choice left. But let's pause here. Do you know what it means to inherit a bankrupt country? Not metaphorically. Literally. When Sirleaf took office, the national debt was more than 3 times Liberia's entire economy. Imagine earning $100 a year and owing $300, then multiply that by millions. On top of that, there was no running water, no working electricity grid, and soldiers still wandering the streets with guns. That's where this story begins. At her inauguration, Sirleaf didn't promise miracles. She promised discipline, honesty, and to fight corruption. Simple words, but in Liberia, corruption was the air people breathed. Ministers pocketed money, officials sold state land, police demanded bribes for everything. To most Liberians, government meant thieves in fancy suits. Sirleaf had to smash that perception or fail. Her first big move. She went straight after the country's debt. While most leaders would chase short-term popularity building a flashy project, giving out handouts, Sirleaf knew none of that mattered if Liberia remained chained to impossible loans. So she started a global hustle. She begged, negotiated, and shamed international creditors into forgiving billions of dollars. Some world leaders didn't take her seriously at first. But she used her reputation as a Harvard-educated economist and her iron will to convince them. Slowly, debt started to disappear. It was a quiet victory, but it laid the foundation for everything else. Next, she went after corruption. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Because fighting corruption in a country like Liberia is like cutting weeds in the jungle. The more you cut, the faster they grow back. Sirleaf fired officials, brought in outsiders, tried to clean up contracts. But here's the twist, she wasn't perfect either. Critics accused her of protecting allies, even appointing some of her relatives. Was she a saint? No. Was she better than what Liberia had before? Absolutely. And then came education. Think about this. An entire generation of kids had grown up knowing only war. Many had held guns before they ever held pencils. Sirleaf's challenge was to drag them back into classrooms. She reopened schools, brought in teachers, and pushed for girls to study something often ignored in Liberia's culture. She said, "If your dream dies, the nation dies." Simple, powerful words. Yet, rebuilding minds takes longer than rebuilding roads. Speaking of roads, let's talk about infrastructure. Post-war Liberia barely had 300 miles of usable roads. Imagine a country where traveling 50 miles could take a full day because of mud, craters, and collapsed bridges. Sirleaf made roads her obsession. "If we cannot connect our people, we cannot grow," she said. So she poured resources into paving, rebuilding bridges, reconnecting villages. Suddenly, farmers could get crops to markets. People could travel to hospitals. Roads might sound boring, but in Liberia, they meant life. But every victory came with betrayal. While Sirleaf was building, enemies were plotting. Many former warlords still held power in Parliament. Men with blood on their hands sat in suits, smiling, waiting for her to slip. They didn't like that she was exposing their dirty deals. They fought her policies, mocked her leadership, and whispered that she was too soft because she was a woman. But Sirleaf knew how to fight, not with guns, but with persistence. She wasn't intimidated. Her strength wasn't in shouting, it was in outlasting. Now, here's where the suspense deepens. In 2014, just as Liberia was crawling back to stability, disaster struck again. Ebola. A virus deadlier than war, spreading like fire. Hospitals overflowed, families were terrified, bodies piled in the streets. The world panicked and turned its back. But Sirleaf faced it head-on. She addressed the nation calmly, urged unity, called for international help. Under her leadership, Liberia became the first of the hardest-hit countries to beat Ebola. That crisis could have erased all her progress, but instead, it proved her resilience. By the time she left office in 2018, Liberia wasn't a paradise. Corruption was still there, poverty was still crushing, unemployment was high. But compared to the ashes she inherited, the country was standing again, debt reduced, schools functioning, roads rebuilt, peace maintained, and for the first time in decades, Liberia had a democratic transition of power without guns blazing. That alone was historic. Some people call her a hero, others say she didn't do enough, but let's be honest, how many of us, put in her shoes, could have carried that weight? Rebuilding from zero isn't glamorous. It's not about instant transformation. It's about slow, painful, step-by-step change. That's what Ellen Johnson Sirleaf gave Liberia. Not perfection, not paradise, but progress. So, what's the moral here? Leaders don't need to be flawless to make a difference. Sometimes, leadership is about showing up when everyone else runs away. Sometimes, it's about doing the boring, thankless work, negotiating debts, fixing roads, keeping schools open because those are the bricks of nation building, and sometimes, it's about proving the world wrong simply by refusing to quit. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's story is not just Liberia's story. It's a reminder to all of us, rebuilding is possible, even from the ashes. Your past doesn't have to chain your future. And even the smallest consistent steps can rewrite the destiny of a people. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Sirleaf did enough for Liberia, or do you feel she could have done more? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear about resilience and courage. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories that matter. Because history isn't just about the past, it's about what we can learn today.